I'm Dan Drake. This is Visitor Network TV. With us today is NatLowell, our favorite commentator on the local scene. Nat, what's on your mind?
Boy, what's on my mind? Well, summer's over in a flash.
It was a busy summer.
It was steady.
Yeah.
Good weather. No bad hurricanes. I think everybody got here and everybody left when they were supposed to, and you know, it wasn't like a couple of years ago with Irene.
Well,
or
I'm hoping with all the
bumps.
bad weather around on Labor Day weekend that the airport fuel sales were significant.
Wait, sounds like they're selling fuel.
Yeah.
No, that's good point. Got to keep those jets coming in and out too. Right. People, we used to complain about all that stuff. Now no one's talking about it anymore.
There are a few who do.
It's part of the economy.
That's right. Anyway, let's talk about there's some development issues going on, and that's one of your areas of interest. One of them is sort of what's going to happen if, in your view, in the whole Mid-Island thing with the transfer of Glowacki's land to.
That's not Mid-Island. I mean, technically, it's outside the Mid-Island overlay
district. I know, but it is,
yes, I just want to make sure that we're on the same.
Good point, but it's part of the whole commercial. Scene along Old South Road, and really an extension. It could be perhaps an extension of the commercial scene.
Well, first of all, to answer that question, I mean, nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen. I mean, there was an article in the paper this week or last week. I think Andrew would be good to get him on and maybe get his vision of as far as the zoning aspects go. But there's going to be some zoning changes proposed to keep it sort of residential in character, but some commercial. As you know, we have different commercial districts now that are not as intense as the old RC2 that was all over the island that we're slowly getting rid of. But I think the Glowacki property, it abuts residential that used to be his as well. Right. So it's not as big of a deal as it may sound like. It's just land that's just been there forever, and now it's more formalized, I guess it would say. They sold some in there before this sale. Right. I think that it's going to take a few years to get this thing all, vision.
The perception is this is the land essentially across from Valero's.
Right. And
various pieces on the southwest side of
it goes all the way back to Woodland
and goes all the way through.
Yeah.
But the issue I think in many people's minds is there going to be some sort of big box store out there, whether it be a grocery store or a drugstore or another iteration of CVS
Well, okay, yeah, that could happen. I doubt it will. Because, and this is where we get into this discussion, I know we talked a lot about this when I was on the spring. When this whole thing happened with CVS, it sort of taught people things. I mean, forget about the fact that we don't want CVS downtown. I mean, that's a different issue. Right. This whole thing about the monopoly of Stop and Shop is really overstated, okay? Whoever the grocery store was back in '94 when they bought Finest, whoever that was, is them. In other words, if it was Star Market, it would have been them.
They used to be down on Main Street.
Yeah, but it would have been right. But what I'm saying is, whoever bought Finest in '94 was going to be the people that are here. So it doesn't matter. It happens to be Stop and Shop, but it could have been somebody else, and they'd be in the same position. For a store, another big grocery store chain, to come to Nantucket and break ground with a shovel today, you're talking an enormous amount of capital, and really only to make money for 2 to 3 months a year. So they would have to look at this as, okay, how much market share can we take from the existing grocery store chain now? Is it worth it? I think that Nantucket is really better suited for a smaller market, something specialty. I think there's a market for that. I'm not trying to say that there is, but I think that would be the only one that would make sense to somebody spending those millions of dollars.
And apparently people looked at that in the context of the space down in the wharf.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, but look what they had to spend, and the leasing, it was a little bit more difficult to get in there that fast, to get it opened up in June. What Stop and Shop did at the old AMP is I tell you, it's a miracle. I don't even know how they did it. But to start,
it seems to work.
It does. It's fine. I was just there the other day, and it's exactly what we needed. And then no one's going to care anymore. Once that store is up and running in the winter, people are going to go down there, pull in there, and shop there like they used to in the AMP. And no one's going to think about anything anymore. It's going to be all set.
So that issue is going to go away.
That issue is going to go away. And that's the way it usually happens over here in Nantucket. When we get crazy about something, it goes away, we forget it even happened. Like the willow tree, remember?
Yes, I do.
But you know, I always have to bring that up because I see it out there hanging over the bike path. But anyway, you know, to get back to this development thing, though, I mean, to more fit the whole issue of the old land on Nantucket that's still in private hands. As a local, you have to think about it this way: something's going to happen somewhere with that property at some point. Now, it doesn't have to be today. It could have gone on like this for another 25 years, just like the electric company property. 15 years ago, there was generators running down there. Now there's nothing, and we don't even remember that there were generators. Something is going to happen in these vacant, privately held areas that are not conservation targets, is my say. The other thing is Miller's Lane, and you know about that. People may not know how that all got phased out one lot at a time.
Right.
But Miller's Lane will never be open. It's permanently closed forever. Once
Miller's Lane is the road along Old South Road.
That veers to the right that goes behind the Nantucket Inn.
That's right.
It dead ends in the woods. Well, that land.
But there's a house being built right there now
That's part of the lot approvals that were created in the road in the layout, and there's a pressure main I think that goes up in there too. But anyway, once that was extinguished, essentially, you know, that area is sort of locked into what it's going to be. But the property, you know, the Galacki property in Naushop was an asphalt plant when I was young. So, I mean, now look at it, and now they want to make sure that the right thing happens across the street. I wonder how many people know it was an asphalt plant that live over there. So, things change in Nantucket. I mean, the industrial heavy stuff is moving towards the airport. I think that that's something that the community wants, and they sort of envision as sort of a natural evolvement, like with, you know, the other businesses, like the Jelemy business on Pilgrim Road is now a little subdivision, and it looks great up there now. I mean, it's fixed up and looks good. You don't want these big trucks driving through small streets forever. Right. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
So, but I don't know. We'll have to see. This is going to be a mixed use development. It's going to have some commercial, but it's not going to be, you know, I don't think it's going to be one thing.
Is there a shortage of commercial space on the island now?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want. I mean, if you want something small like the Coffin property has a subdivision with all those small lots in it, and they're selling 2 lots at a time or whatever. You know, that's a good question. It depends on what you want. I mean, if you want to store boats, then you got to do that by the airport.
Right.
And
no, I'm really talking more about retail space. I mean, you see people come and go, and a lot of these
I don't think there's a shortage. I think it's more of the niche market. I mean, like the Mid-Island, the true Mid-Island, you can see the redevelopment that's happening. Now you have the bank. Right. People are going to really like that project. I know we talked about that. And the Cumberland Farms and how the gas station has been fixed up. I mean, it looks really good. And you know, the stuff by the school, the Boys and Girls Club land, you know, the Craig property, that's going to get developed with Nantucket in mind. That's all going to work itself
Stop and Shop owns that now.
I know, but
they're not going to build another store.
Not in that spot. They may want to, but that's going to be difficult. I think that the whole fire station thing will eventually play out and end up being what we do. You know, because it makes so much sense. It really does. Right. So,
let's talk for a minute about the hospital, and then I know there's some things about the Steamship Authority you want to talk about.
I do.
But the hospital, very quickly, is talking about a couple of options, one of which involves town land. Do you have a view on
well, all right.
town land through the water company?
Yes. First of all, all the land that the town owns, with exception of 2 fairgrounds, we sort of just own it. I mean, I don't mean to say it was free, but I have these little terms I throw around, free dirt, trophy dirt, things like that. But just to give people an understanding that this land was sort of just ours, like we didn't go out and bond to buy that land, okay? And this is a nationwide issue. You see what's happening in Detroit? Government owns all this land. Government has no business being in the private land-owning business. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't own land. I didn't say that. But evaluating different parcels to be either sold, put back on the tax rolls in some way, whether it was a gift, but it was back on the tax rolls, is something that we have to look at because we need the income. The town needs the money. The land is there. If the land is not going to be used for municipal use in the next, say, 50 to 75-year vision of what the next things are going to be, then we should look at selling property. I think the Reese trade for the land that they have now sort of opened the eyes to this concept, because even though that wasn't sold, the land that they had and all the deals that were made between the land bank and stuff, it all made sense because of what they owned themselves. But in the case of, say, future things to be out by the airport, not everything's just going to migrate to the airport just because that's what we want. There needs to be a public-private partnership with some of this stuff. And you're going to start to see some of this stuff take place with the tank farm issue downtown. Winthrop is, from what I'm hearing, has come around now to working with us more and realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot going on in Nantucket. We're not there anymore, but we need to pay attention. I think a lot was learned with this whole CVS thing, you know, to kind of woke some people up.